Hey, this is another Sea Spring podcast, and it is our third part talking about unhoused pets and their humans. And I have someone here, Jesse, and he has lived experience with being unsheltered with a pet, and he wishes to share that now. So take it away, Jesse.
I have experience with being unsheltered with a pet. And my experience it's a little different. I was underage, and it was a few short months, not even. But I thought it was important to talk about because there are things that you can do if you are about to face having to live on the street or in any risky situation with a pet. And I had no resources at that time to kind of teach me how to do this.
Because you were just a kid.
I was just a kid.
Yeah.
So what I did was, the first thing I did was, with having a cat, I harness trained her. And that can be hard, and a lot of cats aren't for it. But I highly suggest, if you are a person who is, vulnerable to facing life on the street or having a lack of resources, and you have a pet who is not harness trained or leash trained, I highly suggest you do that. And also noise sensitivity training. I got her used to noises. Like, I kind of crash coursed my cat on how to deal with a loud living situation for a while. And another thing is like food, what you're going to feed them and stuff. That's also important. Again, it's based off of like money and resources and stuff, but it's not too hard to actually feed them quite good quality food when you are on the street. There are pet food banks, and also
I heard actually from the food bank, canned yam and tuna, you just mix it up for cat food apparently.
yeah, there's a lot of human foods that are
Yeah.
actually given in an abundance actually at some of the food banks.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. Maybe we're low on food now. I'm a little out of date the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks, especially with winter rolling in.
Yeah.
But there were definitely some combinations that I could make for my cat that was very healthy compared to the dry kibble that is normally provided as the pet resource in those places. So another thing is just kind of learning, what's safe for your pet too. That was a thing, was learning what's bad for them and what's good for them, because just being able to create them a meal from human food is a resource of its own.
Yeah.
But yeah, back sort of on.
Because in the shelters you're given meals, but your pet isn't given a meal.
Well, that's the thing.
Just to be clear about that.
When I experienced this, and I'd love to sit down and talk to more people who have experienced having a pet and being on the street, especially youth. I'd love to sit down with youth, especially today, who have pets and are experiencing, the lack of resources and the barriers that comes with having a pet. Because when I experienced this, I did not tap into any resources. There were none, but I didn't tap into them because I actually took the mentality of, I was kind of having to hide away. So I hid away with her because I thought that was the best I could do, was just to make sure she was safe, not to get involved with, any of these reasons, because I was planning to get myself out of foster care. So
if any unhoused youth with pets want to get a hold of you after hearing the podcast, how can they do that?
Absolutely. I have a work email, and if anyone would like to discuss their experience or past experiences with me, and maybe we could get another podcast going or get your story out there, my email is oceanforest1995@gmail.com. So if you guys, got a story, I'd love to hear it, and any suggestions too, because at Sea Spring, we're making a curriculum, and in this curriculum, we would love to have a section that is just resources and lived experience of, your guys' stories. And mine is it's not nearly big enough to cover everything. I had a cat. Having a dog, that's a whole other story, So, we got to add as much into it as we can. So
I should mention we're both cat people.
We're both cat people. See, I'm a dog person too, but I'm a cat. After 19 years, nearly 19 years with her, I've been beaten down into a cat person. And the other day, I had to accept that there was fewer pictures of dogs on my fridge. And
did you start out as a dog person and became a cat person?
Well, I tried to trace it back, but I was so young when the first horde of animals was shoved on me by my animal-loving father. So I was always just an animal person, but the cats always seemed to be a little more drawn to me than the dogs.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm not sure what that says about me. I hope something good, but cats. But
you've got the aura.
No, yeah. Well, okay. Well, we used to be cat whisperers. That'll be our careers. We'll leave Sea Spring to cat whisperers. No.
Wow.
Bag on topic. Yeah, it's just it's all different experiences, and I think if we all add them together, we can kind of put together a makeshift manual of how people could just, have a bit of a better experience with their pets when they're on the
Yeah.
street.
Like it's going to be hard, but maybe these resources can make it a little less hard.
Yeah, and what about, because the thing is that I've seen it, and people have their dogs taken from them because their dogs, especially new 1-year-old male dogs, they're prone to nip, and they're not violent, but because they haven't had their teaching training. I prefer teaching.
Bite control.
And yeah, and so they're just babies at that point, right? They don't know anything. Yeah, they got to learn, and they learn very well with other dogs. And I was said, you know what? Why don't we have dog trainers? Like, why don't we have dog trainers getting everyone together on the street, getting them all together, have dogs? And I know it's a tall order, and it can't all come together as beautifully as I'm picturing it in my head. But with a little bit of work, why not? Because then these people don't have to lose their dogs.
I feel like it all goes back to the assumption in society, in mainstream society, that poor people cannot care for themselves and are dumb and make poor choices for life.
Oh, well, this is what drives me crazy is when people say,
again
"Oh, they
again,
don't care for them."
I see that.
And when there's no way to describe in words the neglect that I put myself through 19 years that I had her, because I had no resources, no parents, no family. It was it was me and her. And so, but she never went without. And that's the thing is...
But were there days when you went without food or anything?
Yes, there were days I went without food. There were days her vet bills would always come first. I remember going through a horrific dental pain. I had, taken a bit of a knock to the face. And that was, about $2,000-$3,000 of dental work. But then she actually ended up having a bit of a dental crisis at the moment too, because she decided she didn't decide to, but she lovingly fell out of a tree and costed me all my money. And that's just what it's like having pets and kids. It's going to cost you money. But the thing is she got taken care of. And that's the thing is, when people are like, oh, you're homeless with a pet, or you're low income with a pet, or you're renting a room with a pet. I rented so many rooms with a pet, and they would go, well, isn't that just mean keeping her in the bedroom? And I'm like, well, not really, considering she goes out for walks every day, has the best of everything. She's the most loved creature. And I've built ramps and all types of things around this place. She's having a good life, Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is I worked myself into the ground to make sure she had everything she needed. And it's that motivation to keep you going. Mm-hmm. And when you lose it, well, then you're just kind of like, what are you doing? Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, it's just important to know like the resources you have and what you can do, and reach out, because there's no reason why the SPCA or any other organizations couldn't take a moment just to take a phone call from a newly unsheltered person and just kind of run them through like what they could do just to keep their pets safe and dry in the winter. And
crash course.
The recommendation of throwing a jacket on it's just that's not enough, because then you're not explaining if that jacket stays on too long. The repercussions, and it doesn't need to happen.
And I did also want to add the SPCA has some measures in place for Mental Health Act admissions. I think it's like under 30 days or something.
They do hold your pet temporarily, which is good.
Yeah.
They also have it in there if there's storms, natural disasters. I'm not really sure exactly what all falls under there, but maybe there's some wiggle room. With what classifies as disasters, windstorms and stuff, maybe. So that's worth looking into if you do need your pet to go, just into care for a short period of time.
Right.
But we need more options for that. Foster homes. Pet foster homes. We're always in such a lack of those, and I don't see the reason for it. Lots of big, beautiful homes here in yards, and people lots of time. So why don't everybody just kind of get together? Let's
I definitely agree. Make a coalition.
Because we could have a whole other one just for pets, and I'd spend the rest of my life doing it.
Yeah.
But it's always the lowest funded. It's always the lowest funded. You see the animal shelter shutting down rather than opening.
Yeah.
And that's sad when you see.
Expanding.
It's sad when you see big corporations, multiple locations opening everywhere, and then we can't even keep one rescue open, just one. And it's like you're not even asking for a lot. We're all willing to accept cheap wages. Like I'm taking a pay cut right now. I'm making more money somewhere else, but it's about doing something that actually matters.
And also, I do know with my situation, also I had a cat. I was able to get this beloved pet of mine another home right before, because I knew I was going to be homeless. I had a few weeks to prepare, and I made sure that she was taken care of. What happened was a coworker of mine, a really good friend of his cat just passed away, and he was a big cat person and was very sad, and was willing to take on this my Amazon her to care for her, and every every now and then I'll go in and check up on that coworker, and I'll ask, oh, how's Amazon doing? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah. Last I heard, she's doing good, and she is apparently like I spent so much time with her training her on those fishing pole toys to jump really high, and like she had big muscles. She was a muscular cat, like
Yeah.
cougar, right? So and I was in a condo, and so she couldn't go outside really. But now with this new owner, she gets to go outside, and apparently she catches all the birds, all the butterflies,
I'm
all
a
the
hunter.
insects. She's a killer. So she's having a time of her life, I think, right now, which
Well,
is
that's good that she's
and
having a good time.
and okay, and it killed me. It killed me to surrender her, and even last night I was lying in bed. I got a pang of like instant guilt as I just something how you get the Facebook where it's like look back on your memories, and it was a picture of my cat.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes. And I just remember feeling extreme guilt,
The guilt
and
is very
and I
real.
had to tell myself every time when I get that guilt, I have to tell myself she's happy right now, and she even doesn't remember you. It's fine, but she's happy right now, and that's all that matters.
And that's the right choice, because when you look at it as a bigger picture, is that if you were in a situation where if you had taken her with you, it wouldn't have benefited her, because you were in a tough spot, and if you couldn't help yourself at that point, then
Yeah.
what you did actually was you helped yourself, because you put your cat, your kid, you put them in a safer situation while you sorted yourself out. And a lot of people need to do that. The only reason I did not do that is because I didn't really know if those resources were there. I was too young,
Yeah.
and I was also feeling, I
I
was
was
young. I was feeling kind of strong. I was just in the beginning of it. But
I was very lucky. I had some connections there. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, so now she's healthy and she's happy, and there's some time. That's all we really need. Everyone just needs a little bit of time and just a little bit of understanding. And there just needs to be people in your corner who are like, yeah, so right now you're having a hard time, and absolutely, I'll watch your cat for a week or two while you get yourself back on your feet. And no, they're not going to be put down. They're not going to go in a shelter. We're not going to adopt them out. And and that's another thing is we with it's just it's not needed. It's just need some time. Time and empathy is all we need for
Yeah, and there's so many broader situations even where more empathy would just immensely help, and even just combating the compassion fatigue of the last couple of years with the COVID and everything. A lot of healthcare workers, social workers, like apparently the domestic violence has gone through the roof in the last 2 years, and like there's been so many things now, and empathy is so called for right now.
Well, the thing that I would say, and what stood out to me the most about the last couple of months, after losing a companion of that many years and not having a lot in my corner at that time, is if
2 minutes.
there,
Sorry.
it's people don't quite understand. It's a lot, right? And so people have to understand is that when you do lose your companion of that many years, you could start drinking. You could just fall into really bad behavior, and
You have massive grief.
yeah,
Massive,
the grief,
massive.
and
I would say traumatic
yeah.
grief, actually.
And that's exact right now. That's what I'm going through, and I feel ridiculous for it because it was August, and now we're in November, and But again, we don't allow ourselves time, and I'll sit here probably for another year beating myself up, saying, "Well, you should have been over this a week after it happened." We need more time, and people need to just understand that they're our family. So
yeah, and maybe people that are not pet people but have kids can use that analogy of their own kid. What would they do for their own children?
yeah, like we just need understanding, and that's important, because without that understanding, you, instead of turning to the humans in your life for that understanding, you'll turn to drink, you'll turn to something else, because they don't get the amount of pain that you're in.
Yeah.
So just empathy, understanding, and time, and realize that animals, they're a benefit, they're not a burden.